Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us in part 2 of our 8-part series on Alma Analytics Masterclass. And today we're discussing physical inventory and fulfillment in Alma Analytics. Before we begin, I'd like to point out a few administrative and technical details. Everything that we're doing today and all of the other sessions can all be viewed here on this page, which is the Alma Analytics Masterclass Fall 2021 main page. I'm going to send out the link to this in case anybody doesn't have it. From here, you'll be able to link to the recordings. For example, you've got the links to the recordings from the last session here. All of the supporting documents are also here. I'm going to send this out in the chat. Those of you who are viewing the recording, it's on the Ex Libris Knowledge Center under Home, Alma, Best Practices and How-Tos, Analytics, and then the Analytics Masterclass Fall 2021. And I'm going to send that out to everybody right now in the chat, so you've all got that. That's first of all. Also, all of these documents which we're showing, which are linked on this page, they're also on our Knowledge Center on a central page, which has all kinds of Alma Analytics presentations. And I'm going to send out the link to that as well. So everybody's got this. And here, for example, you've got advanced material, information about prompts, dashboards, functions. These are all things we'll be showing throughout the 8 sessions, and it's a wealth of information here. So I'm going to send that out to everybody as well. I'll also remind everybody that we have a YouTube channel, which also contains all of our recordings. I'm going to send the link out on that as well. And for example, if you come to this YouTube channel, this Ex Libris YouTube channel, I'm going back home on it. And for example, if I were to do a search here, this is the Ex Libris YouTube channel. And if I were to do a search here for Analytics Masterclass, let me just spell that properly. You'll get last week's session, Analytics Masterclass, C-L-A-S-S, sorry about that. And there we go. So that was 1 of 8 from last week. After this session, I'm going to upload 2 of 8. So they're all going to be here when we're done. When it's all done, we'll put them all in a playlist, and everything's good to go. Those are administrative details. After last week's session, somebody wrote me a mail asking why. If you see this screen in front of you, if I want to go now to analytics, I've got market acquisitions, resources, discovery, and if I click these 3 dots, well, then I've got admin and analytics. If, however, I go to this other environment, I just switch tabs. Here, the analytics appears as part of the menu. So someone said, how come on one, it's to the third one, and on the other one, you have to go click the 3 dots, the ellipsis, they call it. And the reason for that is as follows, and how you can change it is as follows. The reason for that is the user interface. This is our fairly new user interface. It's been completely redone, and we had some sessions on it maybe 4 or 5 months ago. In any case, it responds to the resolution on the screen. If there's not enough room on the screen to show a menu entry, then it goes into these 3 dots. So for example, if I do a bunch of control minuses here to change my resolution, now you see I do have the analytics. I make it a little larger, now I no longer have the analytics. However, if I want to move analytics somewhere else, and say, for example, I don't really do market or I don't really do discovery, I can move those down. So you can click here on top where it says search and manage Alma links. And then there's an option here, customize main menu links. And now I can take this analytics and drag it up. So now it's dragged up. These have the little picture of an eye with a line through it because it's hidden due to screen size. So now I've moved analytics up. I'll even move it up more. I'll move it up all the way to the top even. So now analytics is on top. Then I just have to close this, and that's how I can change the link to the analytics so that it is not within the ellipsis, but rather directly on the screen. Okay, so now we have all our initial administrative details out of the way, and we can move on to our officially scheduled program, which is the Analytics Masterclass Physical Inventory and Fulfillment. Feel free along the way in middle of the sessions to stop and ask questions right into the chat. Either I will see it, my colleague Melanie is also monitoring the chat, and from there we'll be able to take your questions. But you don't have to wait till the end. Feel free to jump in whenever you'd like. So what we'll be doing today is a combination of looking at some default reports and making our own reports. If you go into any Google search and do Alma Analytics subject areas, Alma Analytics subject areas, you will get directly to the subject areas. And the ones we're talking about today are physical inventory and fulfillment, as we said. So you can get directly there and start looking. Here's the physical item subject area. And here's the fulfillment, and this will give a full overview. Now, let me also point out that, in fact, I'm going to open up a subject area. I'm going to create an analysis just to show something specific. We have a dedicated subject area called physical items. We have a dedicated subject area called fulfillment. However, it should be known that each subject area also contains information from other subject areas already as part of it. And that's in order to prevent the need to combine subject areas. Instead of, for example, trying to get the number of loans from fulfillment while I'm here in the physical item subject area, so information about loans and requests also are here within the physical item subject area. Then there's also information about the physical items in the fulfillment subject area. There's also, by the way, fund information in the fulfillment subject area. So even though I'm in the physical item subject area, it doesn't mean I will only have physical items information. I will also have, related to that, here I've got last loan date, I'll also have fulfillment information in the physical item subject area, and that's in order to be able to make, like I stated, reports without needing to start trying to mix subject areas, which has its own issues. And I know many of you know that that has its own issues. So that's first of all. And not only if we're talking about the physical item subject area and the fulfillment subject area are things mixed together, but also, for example, the benchmark analytics. The benchmark analytics also includes item information, and I'm gonna point that out now. Let me just see. I see a chat came in. I'm not going to stop all the time, but I will occasionally. So someone says would be nice to have number of loans in the user's subject area. Okay. Thank you for that suggestion. And one of the places where well, let me just say about that one with the comment of would be nice to have number of loans in the user's subject area. So in the fulfillment subject area, we've got a lot of information about the user the other way, but let's save that for another day. Actually, we can save it for today because we're going to be speaking about that later. In any case, let's take a look at a out-of-the-box report for benchmark analytics. Even though it's not the fulfillment subject area or the physical item subject area, it contains information about both of them. So right now I'm in the Alma folder. And we said last week that the Alma folder, here I'm in the Alma folder, contains the default out-of-the-box reports, and it's a read-only subject area. Excuse me, a read-only folder. And here we've got benchmark, and then we've got a benchmark dashboard, and I'm going to click open on it. Now, a little background here, the benchmark analytics compares the data, completely anonymized, aggregated anonymized data across the data center of the institution. For example, if now I am in a Canadian environment or a North American environment or an APAC environment, what I'm seeing here is comparing my APIs, my KPIs, my key performance indicators, against other institutions within my same environment, with same data center, because by law, we Ex Libris cannot take data from APAC and put it on the data center, which is in Amsterdam for Europe. It's against the law to do that. So they're all separate, and each region, I'll say region for a non-technical term, technical term, the data center of that region contains the data. So if I look here, for example, if we're talking about fulfillment, I can compare how many percentage of late returns are in my institution. The blue is always my institution. The pink is always the rest of the world. I'm going to make this a little larger in case it's tough to see in the WebEx. So here I'm seeing that the percentage of late returns in my institution is lower than the average, so that's good. If I saw that my percentage of late returns is higher than the average, I might want to start considering changing my terms of use, my different policies, etc. Also for fulfillment, we see here on-time returns. So my on-time returns are higher than the average, and that's logical because if my percentage of late returns is lower, my percentage of on-time turns will likely be higher. Then we've got inventory information here. So here I'm switching to the tab called Inventory Total, and we'll see how my inventory compares to the rest of the world. Oh, now the rest of the world in my region. So for example, I can see here that I have more than the average institution as far as number of physical bibliographic records. The blue again is mine, the dotted line is the average. We're talking about fulfillment and physical inventory. So here I see I have more physical items than the average. And I can also see the inventory that I'm adding by month. I'm switching now to the tab called Inventory by Month. So I get a snapshot of the number of physical items in the repository. And here I've got number of bibliographic records, number of electronic collections, electronic portfolios, and we're talking about physical items. And I'm going to do a play here. And then I can see the changes. The blue again is me. I'm slightly above average, and I can see how many are being added per month. I can compare that with the rest of the world. If we're talking about loans, because we're discussing today fulfillment and physical items, so same thing here. I can see the information regarding loans per month that I'm doing. Now, this is an interesting one here. This is looking at October 10 because it's going a year back. You see this institution here, they're all completely anonymized, but this institution is super large. They did a bunch of loans that year, that month. Those are called outliers, and that's not an analytics term or an Alma term. Whenever there's statistics, there's always a few at the ends, the lowest and highest that just throw everything off. So we can actually get rid of those. On the bottom left here, we've got filter out percent of high values, filter out percent of low values. I'm going to get out the highest and lowest 2%. So I put in a 2 there and I clicked apply. And then we'll see the graph should be a little different unless that's not within the 2%, but I believe it is. And let that spin around a bit. There we go. So now we're looking at a more logical looking graph. Loans by month average. So I'm above average, I see here, as far as my loans per month go. And it seems to be remaining, if I play this month by month, it seems to be consistent. This is also good now that I think about it. As far as the COVID goes, different regions have been affected differently by that. So being able to compare only to your own region is also a nice thing in that sense. And I will point out also before we move on out of the benchmark analytics that not every institution will have benchmark analytics. In order to have the benchmark analytics, you need to approve that you want to do the benchmark analytics, and that's done via a data sharing profile. And in the data sharing profile, you have to approve that you're willing to do the benchmark analytics, which is right here. You have to say yes. And I was in a different environment here. So here, if I go into the configuration menu and I say data sharing profile, and I go to the benchmark analytics, so it's checked as yes, which is why I have it. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show on that. Well, again, like I stated at the beginning, we're starting just by looking at the out-of-the-box reports. I'm going to take a look at the chat again. I don't see any comments in the chat. Therefore, I will move on. So the next one I'd like to look at is the physical items dashboard, which by the name, as the name suggests, gives a full overview of the physical items. So let's switch again into analytics. I don't need to go into the ellipsis here. And analytics. And design analytics. So the physical items dashboard, again, will be under the Alma folder. Catalog. And then we'll go to the Alma folder, physical items, inventory, dashboards, physical items. So I'm in shared folders, Alma, inventory, dashboards. And we'll say open. I'm just going to switch here for a moment and here and go here too. Okay. So what do we have here? It's starting out item count by library and location, with the option of being able to say I only want a specific library or I only want a specific location of that library. For example, I only want the art library right now. And in the art library, I'm going to do apply here, so we'll only get the art library. And it's giving every title, the call number, and how many items it has. It's just a flat out list for whatever purposes the institution may want. And this is something we added fairly recently. On the top, we get an item count by that library. And that can also be not only by that library, but also by whatever location I want to choose as well. So there's 92,318 items in the art library. We can also get a little breakdown here by the item process type. See how many of them are in whatever status. Let's get the art library there again and apply. Okay, so here we see the different process types. These have process type none. I can always, by the way, sort these ascending and descending in order to get all of them grouped together. If I want, for example, not to have all the none together. So all of these here, for example, are in acquisitions. These are all on the hold shelf. These are all in process, etc. And I can play around with this like any other report. I can move the columns around. So now I have them all grouped together here by the process type, in alphabetical order by the process type, because I moved that to the beginning and I did the sort. I can also sort it by call number. For example, here I can say, so I'm on the call number column all the way on the right, and I can sort ascending, sort descending. I'll sort that ascending. And I can bring that, for example, also over. I can drag it. I can right click and say move column left, move column right, etc. Here I can only move left because I'm already at the end. And I can also drag it. When reports are super large, it's easier to right click and do the move. So now I've got it by call number. Then we've got a straight out item count. I'm simultaneously reading and answering the chats. Does the status change disappear of an item, or does it stay combined with a certain date? I'm not quite sure I follow that. The question is, does the status change or disappear of an item, or does it say, oh no, it will disappear. If the status now is in acquisitions and tomorrow it's not in acquisitions, it will no longer be there. It will no longer state acquisitions. Okay, then we've got item count. And item count by material type. Book here is the largest. Let's just take a look here. Then bound issue, then issues, and then these are all what we call a long tail, a small amount of many other types, but book, as we see, is the vast majority of types. Then items, additions, and withdrawals. What has been added to the library? What has been removed from the library? Because here's the life cycle. So anything deleted has been removed. Withdrawn. There's a way from the physical item list to withdraw an item, and we can see how many have been withdrawn. And we can also see there's items not in place, and this is the reason they're not in place. They might be on loan, they might be in transit, they might be tagged as missing. And one of the newest tabs we've got here in the physical item subject area, a very useful one, is called physical item usage for weeding. Weeding, often called also deselection. Here, the goal is to see what items, by their creation at a certain date, have not been loaned or have not been loaned in a certain amount of time. For example, and again, even though I'm in the physical item subject area, I'm getting information about loans. So by default, it's looking at all items created less than 5 years ago. It's defaulting to October 27th, 2016, today being October 27th, 2021, and they haven't been loaned at least since that date. And then I can do it by library, by location, by material type. Let me get just the books, because serials usually aren't loaned anyway. I can do it by word from title. I can do it by word from subject. I can do it by a classification code. And let's say, okay, so now I'm getting every item which is in the art library, that was created at least 5 years ago, and within those 5 years has not been loaned. So it might be something I want to consider getting rid of. Here's some that were loaned in 1993. That's actually the year I started working with Aleph, the predecessor, we can call it, or a previous enterprise system of Ex Libris, 1993, summer 93 even, so it's the same date. Anyway, some of them have never been loaned. So something the institution may want to consider, if we run this again, now that I see I've got data here for quite some time, if I were to say from 2000 even, now these older dates, by the way, I must point out, if you're using a date here from before your migration to Alma, usually we migrate the last loan dates of the previous system and the item creation dates of the previous system. It's not always possible. That's just to keep in mind. Usually we've got them, but not always. So here I'm getting everything which has a creation date of at least 2000. That's 21 years ago. And they haven't been loaned at least since 2000. You can see some of them have been loaned in 92, 93, other dates in the 90s, and many have never been loaned. So something to consider. Let me run that one more time even and say I want only those which also from 2000 have never been loaned. Or let's even say 1999 or 1990, which is basically going to be never been loaned unless migration after migration from system to system included it. Last loan date. Okay, so we're getting the point here that we can always keep retrieving them more and more back. I'm going to do it one more time on 2000 with a LC classification code DS. DS is something in the arts. Boom. Okay. Okay, so the last loan date is always earlier than 2000. And they all have, as you see, the call number in the DS area. So that means someone could go to a section of the shelf where all of the DS is and start seeing if they want to do something else with these. We've got a whole nother one, which we'll talk about when we get to electronic inventory. Time permitting, we could do so today as well. But there's an overlap analysis, which looks at the physical inventory and the electronic inventory, which also for a purpose of deselection or weeding, as they sometimes call it. Here we're saying that we may want to deselect it because it hasn't been used. In the overlap analysis of electronic and physical, we say we may want to deselect it because it also exists in electronic version. Okay, so before I go on here, are there any questions or comments so far? Let's take a look in the chat. No other questions or comments. Okay. So I want to take a look at now creating some reports in the physical item subject area. Until now, we've been looking at the default out-of-the-box reports, but we can also create our own reports. So let's do that. And we're going to use the presentations which are on that initial page that I showed here on this page, the presentations and documents analytics, and which is also on the page of the Analytics Masterclass, Fall 2021, where I stated we also have the documents here. And the first one we're going to do is create a report of all items that have been declared missing for 6 months or longer. Now, just to refresh everybody, even though this isn't a class in Alma, but just so it makes some kind of sense on the analytics side, when we have a list of items, um, there's an option there from the list of items to toggle the status. That means change it from not missing to missing. So if I go, for example, to an item list, from that item list, I can manually declare the item. Let me just do a couple of control minuses here. View all items, okay. Just to get to the item list. So I can take this and change the status provided I have all of the, um, oh, this is already on loan, so I can't make it missing. Let me get something that's not on loan. Sandberg. Someone says, can we use the dashboards in the Alma folder without copying it to our private folder? Yes. I now used the dashboard in the Alma folder. Dashboards can be used in the Alma folder. The only reason you'd need to copy it to a different folder is if you wanted to edit it. But if you don't have a reason to edit a dashboard, then you don't have to copy it to your own folders. The ones I ran them all directly from the Alma folder. Okay, so we're going back to the list of items here, just so we can show what we mean by missing. So we'll go to the list of items here. This is the item is in place, and it's toggle missing status. I didn't have the toggle missing status for the previous one because that item was on loan. So if the item's on loan, I can't say it's missing. I can set up an automated system to make them become missing if they're overdue, etc., but we'll save that for another day. So our analytics report, which we're going to build now, is going to get a list of all of those items declared missing longer than 6 months ago. And let's take a look at how we do that. So we're going to follow the document. That'll help us make sure the document is correct also. Right here, how to create a report of all items which have been declared missing longer than 6 months ago. And I'm just going to get that from here because I already downloaded them all. And here we go. We're going to follow instructions directly from here. And like I said, the status missing might be because somebody manually changed it. I'll make this a little larger for everybody. It might be done via a job. So we're going to make a new report in the physical item subject area. And then we're going to add a couple of different fields there. So let's do that. Let's say create analysis. And we'll choose the physical item subject area. Physical items. And then as it states here, we're going to display which fields do we want to display. So we're going to take the modification date and the barcode from the physical items details folder. So here's the physical items details folder. And we're going to take the modification date and the barcode. So here's the barcode. And then the modification date. Now we're taking the modification date, which will tell us when it was changed, but also we can use that as a filter later. So we've displayed both of those. Then we'll take the title from the bibliographic details folder. Every subject area, or I should say almost every subject area, has a bibliographic details folder. It's the same folder in all of the subject areas and the vast majority of the subject areas, and that's what we call a shared folder. So we'll take the title from here. Then we'll continue following the instruction. We've got the location name. and the permanent call number. So we take the location name from the location, permanent call number from the holding details folder. So location name from the location folder. Location name and permanent call number. By the way, I can also search for the fields if I don't want to start scrolling through everything. Some of the subject areas have a lot of fields in them. So permanent call number from the holding details folder. Instead of searching around for it, I can just type it in here, permanent call number. That should be enough even, and enter. There we go. So permanent call number. If I put my mouse over it, I see also what folder it's in. So I'll take that one in as well. So now I've got the fields that I want to display. Now, if I go over to the results tab now, then I'll end up having every item that is in the repository because I haven't put in any filters. So now we'll start filtering it to get only those that are missing for longer than 6 months. So the process type from the physical item details folder. If I don't want to display something and I only want to filter by it, I have two options. I can come and add the process type here and then do the filter and say I want only those which are missing. But if I don't want to display it, I can then get rid of it. So now I'm filtering it by it, but I'm not displaying it. However, there's another way. I'm going to get rid of this filter so I can show the other way. The other option is to come here. I'm on the middle right where I have my mouse over something that looks like a funnel. Create a filter for the current subject area. So I can also add a field from here. And if it's one that I'm already displaying, I can choose it from there. Otherwise, I'll do more columns. And this will not add it to the display. It'll only put it in the filter section. So let's get the process type from here. That's the other way to add a filter. And we want to say missing. Missing. Now we're already getting some meat here in our report, so I'm going to save it. And I'm going to save it in my folder. Save as, so I don't clutter up my demo environment for the next guy, next person. So here I'll call this items which have been declared missing longer than 6 months ago. Okay. So, what else do we need to do here? We don't have anything about the date. Right now, this is going to give me everything which is missing. I could just do it like this and sort by date. In fact, I could come here on the modification date. I clicked the little cog wheel, the wheel here for configurations, and I could sort this descending and go to the results, and that's going to give me everything that's missing without any kind of filter by the modification date. So I did descending, so I have the most recent. I could change it here even to ascending, and then I'll get the oldest. So some of them have been declared missing since 2018. But we said we want the last 6 months. So let's come back here. And as the, hit the wrong icon, as the document states, now we're going to do a filter by the modification date. And it shows exactly how to do everything I'm doing here. I'm not going to go through the whole document. So Modification date filter. Now, I could do it two ways. One way is to say, today is October 27th. So 6 months ago is, what's 6 months ago? October, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, April 27th. And now I've got everything which was declared. Did I say equals or greater than? I didn't even notice. I should have said greater than or equal to. This is one method. Another method is to do it via an SQL, which will make the date. I did it equals and not greater than. Another option, which we'll do in a moment, is to, let me just change this, greater than or equal to. So this will give me everything greater than or equal to April 27th. Another option is to write an SQL, which will always give me 6 months ago. And that way, anytime someone opens this up, it'll always be 6 months ago, because now if someone were to run this in 2 weeks, he'd need to change, or she would need to change that hard-coded date. So there's a document among that page that I showed a moment ago, and I'm going to go back in the presentations and documents on analytics. There's a document there explaining how to do these date filters, and let's take a look at it. So there's how to use the timestamp add parameter to retrieve by today minus X. Minus X being minus a certain amount of time, and we want to do minus 6 months ago. So we can take one of the defaults there and just change it for our own purposes, and that's what we'll do. So this document, it gives all kinds of examples. I think every example you can imagine, it does. This is in the last 14 days, the last 2 years, the last 3 months, the last 1 week, etc. So I'll take this one, which is the last 3 months, and I'll change it for my own purposes to be for the last 6 months. But you can see it's a pretty clear method. It's either day, year, or month, or week, and then how long ago you want it. So I'm going to take this one. This is working on the transaction date. We're going to work on the modification date, so we'll change it there also. But the syntax I have right here. Let's go use that syntax. So now inside the analytics report, instead of that hard-coded date, we're going to change it to SQL, and we're going to put in that syntax. So we'll say, we'll take the filter which exists, convert this to SQL, and now let me make this larger because I have a feeling it's appearing small. Okay, so this is by default. It gave me this when we did convert to SQL. It gave me greater than or equal to the date that I hard-coded when I made the filter. I'm going to paste the one I took from the PowerPoint. I'll change the 3 to a 6 because we want 6 months ago. I'll change the field, instead of transaction date, I'll take this modification date from the physical item details. I'm just going to paste it right on. And now I've got an SQL query in here, which is always going to bring me the modification date greater than 6 months ago. Let's put that back to normal size, save it, and run it. There's no need to save it in order to run it, but I wanted to save it anyway, just in case something happens. Let's see the results. Then I see a chat came in. We'll go take a look at that. Okay, so now we've got the barcodes, the modification dates, and all of these were changed to missing and are missing, because that's the process type, within the last 6 months. And it'll always be that If someone comes along and runs this in 5 months from now, then it'll be 6 months ago, according to whenever they run it. By the way, somebody asked, I believe in the last session or via an email after the last session, as you can see the modification date, it has the date and then it's blank until the next one. If somebody wanted this always filled in and not grouped by sections, I'm going to go back to the criteria tab. And in that modification date, if I say column properties, column format, by default, it's always on suppress. If I go to the repeat, now it will be always filled in. And now it's always filled in, which is nice if you're exporting this to Excel. Let me go take a look at the chats. Someone says, I'm going to put this, you can say whatever you want, by the way, everybody, because I'm not going to mention anyone's name. But I do want, when I read this, that people know what I'm saying. So I'm just going to put it out to a Word. Oh, I don't want welcome to Word. I just want a blank document. Okay. So somebody asks, we need a report on items that are missing longer than 6 months, gone long before October 27th. Am I mistaken? If you want something that's missing longer than 6 months, then there's many options. You could change this to be longer than 6 months ago. And if you, I could say I want everything 12 months ago. But if you want, for example, things longer than 6 months, between 6 months ago and 12 months ago, you can also do that. Different ways. You could say here, for example, and the physical item modification date. You could say there's a parameter called between. We're actually going to be talking about this more. I'm going to save this because there's another session dedicated to these kind of filters, but there's an option to do between, for example. Let me just show it. I always do that. I say, we'll save that, and then it gets the best of me. We could say that we want the modification date filter to be between. And we could hard code a date if we wanted between 6 months ago, which would be April, and I think this is supposed to be the earlier one. So I'm going to make this 2020. And this will be October 2020 and April 2021. So now between two dates, and then we could also take those two dates and also SQL it so it'll also be between 6 months ago and 12 months ago. Let's just make sure we got data here. Yes, we do. So these could also be changed. We could change this to SQL. And then with the syntax that we copied from the PowerPoint, we could say this will be the 12 months ago. It'll be between. First, we have to do the earlier date. So this will be between 12 months ago and 6 months ago. There's plenty of different ways to do it. And let's just go back to the chat, see if we got everything. Can I change the date format to date, date, month, month, year, year? Not in the filter. You can't change the date format. You can change your display format across all of the across the entire system. Here, but that's in a whole nother place. It's usually done, your date format is usually done during I got an extra word in there, is done at the time of implementation. And it's usually in accordance with whatever your region is. For example, in America, the month is at the beginning. Europe, the month is in the middle. Okay, I'd like to start moving on to the fulfillment side. Let me go see here, but I do like to answer the questions. How can we be sure that the modification date is the one to which we added the missing status? Couldn't it be another modification on the item? Theoretically, yes. We're assuming here that when the item became missing, that was the last modification date. There is no date it became missing. There is no field called date item became missing. We're assuming here, but it's a good valid point you're making. Theoretically, an item might have gone missing on January 2nd, and on January 4th, someone may have run a job, for example, a physical items update, which would have changed that. So you would in any case be getting a missing item because the process status is missing. And it would be unlikely because it couldn't be another change to it that would change it to a different process status because then you wouldn't get it as missing. But it is theoretically possible. For deleted items, it's not possible. It's always going to be the last modification date because you can't go change a deleted item. But let's save those what are they called? Cases which happen rarely. Mikre Kutse, there's some people here. If someone knows that word in English, let me know. Those are cases which could theoretically happen, but it's going to be rare. Okay, let me see if there's any other questions because I want to move on to the fulfillment part. Even though there's a lot more stuff I wanted to show here. Let's show one more actually because it always comes up. Duplicate barcodes. Let me go to a different environment here and get some duplicate barcodes. Hopefully there'll be duplicate barcodes. If not, we'll use a different field. So same thing on that page, we've got a link to how to get the duplicate barcodes. How to retrieve duplicate barcodes, item barcodes in this case. Now, it's rare that there will be duplicate barcodes because the system won't let you save one, but all kinds of funny things can happen, migrations, etc., etc. Where do I want to run this? I'll start running it here. Create analysis, physical item subject area. And what we're going to do, just the theory behind it, is all barcodes that have more than one item, all unique, the barcode itself, there is more than one item per that barcode. That's the theory of what we're going to be doing. So we're going to get the number of items in the repository and the barcode. That's what we're going to display. And then basically it's going to be where is there a barcode where the number of items is greater than one? By the barcode. It's the filter is going to be by barcode. And that's the little trick here. So we're going to say we want number of items, and we're going to take number of items in the repository because, as we stated last week, analytics includes also the deleted entities, deleted bibliographic records, deleted items, deleted portfolios, and now we want the barcode. Now all we have to do, sounds so simple, is get per barcode when is there more than one item. Let's go take a look how we do that. So we're going to filter the number of items in repository is greater than 2. Filter is greater than 2. Number of items filter is greater than or equal to 2. Now there might be cases depending on how you set up your system that the barcode could be null. We're going to say we don't want those which are null because we will have more than one case of barcodes being null. So it'll think that they're all the same. So we'll say is not null. And now it looks like this, okay? And let's go take a look. I thought while we're waiting, I'll run it in another place, but let's just wait on that. Okay, there we go. So these barcodes, apparently there are two items with the same barcode. The same principle can be used to retrieve users with things, et cetera, et cetera. Let's take a look if that's the case. I'm going to copy that. Physical items, I'm going to search by barcode. Boom, boom. And I'm going to search for that barcode, Control F. There it is once, there it is twice. Once for different bibliographic records. This is the Dred Scott case, this is the Dred Scott case, its significance, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a good way to be able to do a cleanup. Let's move on to the fulfillment subject area, because I don't want to get all done and we didn't even get to the fulfillment subject area. We're almost 2/3 done with our session. Although the first 10 to 15 minutes were more administrative materials. I'm just making sure. Melanie, have I covered all the chat so far?
Yes, so far.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're moving on to the fulfillment subject area. Again, all you have to do is go into Google. Let me go into Google here. It's always dangerous when you start typing in there. You never know what I looked for easily. So if I say fulfillment subject area, Alma analytics, I'll throw in an ex libris. You don't even have to spell everything correctly. And there you go. You're right into the fulfillment subject area. So that's how you can get a description of everything that's in the subject area. These are all the different folders. And then the different fields inside the folders. This is the loan folder, the field, what it is, etc. Let's start with the default reports that exist. And this will answer also the question of the person who was asking, let me go over here, the person who was asking earlier about running a dashboard from the Alma folder, because we're going to run a dashboard now from the Alma folder. And we'll close that, and we'll close that. Okay, we don't need that. Excuse me, I just want to clean everything up here. Okay. So we're going into Alma, and let's take a look at the default reports and dashboards we've got here for fulfillment. And we'll go into analytics as soon as that finishes loading. Let's see who we got on the call here. 103 participants. Okay. Boaz is with us. Good morning, Boaz. Angie, good morning, Angie. Okay. All right, so let's go into the analytics, design analytics. And we're going to look at the fulfillment dashboard. Then we're going to take something from the fulfillment dashboard and locally change it. So we'll go to catalog in order to be able to see the folder structure. We said last week that's similar to going to the Windows Explorer. So we're going to fulfillment, EFGHI. There we are. Okay, somebody said kindly send the links to the recording after each session. Thanks. Yes, we will do that. And they're all on YouTube, like I showed earlier, and we send to the Alma list when they're up. So we will do that. And thanks. In fact, I'm going to make sure to send directly to you also, person who sent it. I'm putting down your name, but they're all going to go out to the Alma list. Okay, so here we are in fulfillment. Here we are in dashboards. And person who asked earlier about can we run these from the Alma folder without first copying to your local directory? We're running this now, as you see, from the Alma folder. And so we got a fines and fees dashboard, a fulfillment loans and overdue, and a fulfillment dashboard. This loans and overdue is a new one, fairly new. Let's take a look at that. So it's going to show loans, returns, and overdues, all things that people like to see what's happening. I'm going to run it also here. Sorry for jumping around, but I'm going to run it in multiple places. Analytics, design analytics, just so I get different types of data. Okay, so this is showing all overdue items, and I can filter the overdue items. Let's do it here a moment. Alma, fulfillment, dashboards, loans, returns, and overdues. Okay, so right now I'm looking at all of the overdue items, and I'm filtering by library name. Some of you may know some of our colleagues here, depending on where you're located, because this is our demo environment, and these are my colleagues who have loaned themselves things and not returned them on time. And then we can filter here by library. For example, the main library. So now I've got everything. It states here in the report how it's getting made. It includes all loans for which the loan was made in the last 365 days. In other words, it's not taking things which are 3 years overdue. We're assuming when this report was designed and put as a default report, we're assuming that if something is already out over a year, you, for whatever reason, didn't want to go track it down and get it. But it can be changed, and we're going to change one of these reports soon. Today, we're going to change one of these default reports. Then we can also get the loans according to the circulation desk. I'm going to change this not to be only the main library. I'll get all column values, apply. So now I've got some for the art library, some for the main library, the default circulation desk. Let me run that here also. If I go loans by circ desk here, I'll have different data. I'm going to let that load for a moment and just change this again to main library. Apply. Okay, so here we've got all of the loans by all places, and I'm going to change this only to the central library. So library name here is Central Library. Apply. And now I can see how many loans are done at the different circulation desks. And this is the classic bar graph that they call a long tail. So the vast majority are all at the main service desk. And then there's a couple small amounts at all of the others. Then we've got returns by the circulation desk. Now this is useful, the returns by the circulation desk, to know staffing, but we're going to talk more about staffing on the next one. So these are all of the returns. According to the return circulation desk, the majority of them are returned at the main service desk. Then we got loans by hour. And that can be useful for knowing how much staff should be allocated to the various desks because it does give an indication of when are the busy times. And the busy times are between 9 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon. Then kind of tails down. So I'd say 2 in the afternoon, peak time, perhaps that's the best time to have the majority of the staff there, or the highest amount of staff there. In the evening, maybe we don't need so much. Not a lot of loans going on there. And that's looking hard-coded at the last 365 days, the last year, but not the last calendar year. It's not looking now at 2020, which is the previous calendar year. It's looking at the past year. We say the last 365 days because that makes it much clearer. This overdue items. If somebody wanted to change this overdue items, and we saw at the beginning that it states overdue items, that it's looking for items where the loan was made in the last 365 days. Let's change this and save it locally. So we're going to be saving now. Before we look at the other dashboards, we're going to take a default report and customize it for our own use. So we'll go to catalog. And we mentioned last time that under each of these folders, when there's a dashboard, there's also a reports, because the dashboards contain reports from the reports folder. For example, if I go to the e-inventory, same thing there. I've got dashboards and I've got reports. And if I go to digital inventory or DARA or course reserves, I've got dashboards and reports. So here we've got dashboards under fulfillment, and we got reports under fulfillment. And let's take the overdue items and change it for our own purposes. Let's see what it does first of all, and then we'll change it. And I'll ask the audience if they have any ideas of what they think we should change it to. First, we'll see what it does. So, we've got the loan status is active. Now we have to leave loan status as active because all historical things are in here. Also, loans which are no longer active, meaning it's been returned, are also here, and we're not interested in dealing with that right now. The due date is less than the current date. That means it's overdue because the due date is earlier than today. Then we've got the loan date filter is in the last 365 days. That means, like we already said, the loan was made in the last 365 days. Then we've got a prompt by the library and the circulation desk. Does anyone have a suggestion? How would you like to change this for your own institution in order to be able to make our own customized report? Anyone have a suggestion rather than me making up a change? Anybody? I'm scrolling down to the bottom. Someone said demo an interactive filter, i.e. a prompt. I'm going to save that. We've got another session coming up, which is dedicated to prompts and other things. So I'm going to save that. But if you're interested in prompts, I strongly encourage you to come to the session called Creating and Managing Prompts and Analytics, and we'll be talking all about prompts. Okay, so nobody's suggesting anything. I'll give another 2 seconds. Anybody want to suggest a change? No. So I'll make a change. Let's say in my institution, I don't want it to do the loan date is in the last 365 days. I'll say the loan date is equal to, now this is the loan date filter. Let me show where this is coming from. Sometimes we don't need to write that SQL like we did before. On loan date, we have a loan date filter. And here in the loan date filter, we can choose different things here. We can say the current fiscal year, the current month, the current year, the last 3 months, whatever we want. I'm going to say anything due in the current year. So that's only going to give me 2021 now. Pretty basic change. Now, any of these dates will be 2021. If I make this ascending, 2021. If I were to come back here and change this to last 365 days, provided there's an example, I'll also have beginning 27 October 2020. Let's say last 365 days. Now we've got 2020 because it's the last 365 days. Let's go to the chat. Somebody says, how do you add the narrative to the top of a report? Okay, let's add a narrative to the top of the report. This is called a narrative. And let's see how we can add the narrative. The narrative can also take a value from in the report. Wasn't part of the plan, but let's do it. There's never enough time on these sessions. Doesn't matter if it's an hour and a half. You know, we usually do an hour. Here is the add, a new view. Then you choose other views, narrative. It by default puts the narrative on the bottom. We'll click the edit. I'm going to write a note to myself to include this in one of the advanced sessions. The last 3 or 4 sessions are advanced, and we'll do it there too. I'll make this contains HTML, and I'll just write a narrative here. Div align equals right. Font color equals red. And hello. Close the font. Break it. I love analytics. Okay, let's fix that. And close it all up. Okay, then you can have it display one row for every row in the report, rows to display, or you can display one, and you've got a preview down here. So it says, hello, I love analytics. So I'm going to say left instead of right, and I'll fix that spelling. Okay, great. Now I got it down here, just so I'm making sure it's good. I'll say size equals 5. I think I put that in right. Yofi, great. Okay, so now I'll say done over here, but we'll include more in depth on the narrative simply because it was asked. Now I'm going to drag it up. The easy way to drag it up is first to put it on the side, then take it and just put it wherever I want. So now I've got overdue items, and I'm going to get rid of this narrative. It's no longer true. Actually, it is still true. I said 365 days again. I've customized my report. I've put in a narrative. Now, on the top right here, I'm going to click Save As. We saw last time, if I want, I can't save this in the Alma folder, even if I wanted to, because the Alma folder is a read-only. So I need to save it. I need to save it somewhere else. Overdue items ABC. Access denied. I can't save this in the Alma folder. So I'll save it in my folders. Or I could save it in my institution is called Alma University. my demo institution. I could save it there, but I'm going to keep it in the My Folders. Okay. So now we've taken a report and changed it. By the way, somebody writes here, hope there would be more examples narrative for people who are not familiar with HTML syntax. So you can do a narrative also without HTML syntax. I'm going to do again the add, the new view, the other views, the narrative, and if I edit it here, so this time I won't click the HTML. And then I'll just write, I love Alma. How about you? And if I want to break, I can just click that little line break there. Now, I'll do one. Now I'm not writing HTML. And I can't start doing the fancy stuff that you do with HTML. But I don't need to know HTML syntax. And now I've got a regular one here. Okay, let's move on. Back to the catalog. Let's get it over here. And let's see some of the other default reports and dashboards. Okay, so fines and fees and overall fulfillment. Let's go into this overall fulfillment dashboard. By the way, we didn't even look at the other tabs. We never really have enough time around here. But we'll have to save that for another day when we've got more time. Okay. Here we are. Okay, so what do we got here? The libraries, the locations, and how many loans there were. Loans per library. It's loans per library and returns per library. The returns is usually a little lower. Returns can't be higher than loans because it may have been loaned in 2021 and it'll be returned in 2022. Actually, we could have them equal. You could have had it loaned in 2020 and returned in 2021. But anyway, loans returns usually typically becomes lower than the loans. Then we got some general circulation statistics, overall circulation statistics. We've got each library and then returns, loans. It's just a pure appropriate for exporting to Excel and doing whatever you want with it. It's just pure data, no graphs, no nothing, with a filter by the different loans, the loan dates. Then you can get the loans according to the patron groups. Here's each group. And according to the library, how many they loaned. So, for example, the postgraduate students in the Central Library loaned 9,159 items in 2021. The rest, I don't want to overdo the time without getting to other things. It's pretty self-explanatory. These are loan counts by title. So this takes each title and states the loan time according to the filters there. What we didn't show earlier on the loans, returns, and overdues is the returns and overdues. We got all caught up in the loans. So let's go back to Alma. And we went to the fulfillment subject area. And we went to dashboards. And we were looking at the loans, returns, and overdues. And okay, these we did. Let's see the fines and fees. Okay. No results, because here it's looking for the last day. By default, it's doing the last day. And in the last day, in my demo environment here, I didn't. So here we go. I changed the filter. So it's all user cache transactions according to the dates that I filter by here. And I can also filter by the library and by the status, whether it's active, closed, or in dispute. I'm going to take them all. So now I've got them all. So I see all of the cache transactions here, and open cache transactions. These are ones which still need to be dealt with. How much is owed by the transaction types? And I can filter that also by user groups. We got Yoel's Special Task Force. Let's see if Yoel, anyone in user group Yoel's Task Force. Okay. We got some open ones there, and specific cache transactions, damaged item, locker keys, etc. We're left now with 9 minutes left. Is there any specific requests before I go on and do a report of most requested items, or we start making our own reports? Are there any other specific requests before we do that? No. So let's do one. If we go back to this, one of the ones which there's a link to here is all items returned more than 30 days after the due date. Create an Alma Analytics, all items returned 30 days or more after the due date. Why would we want something like that? If we know that items are often returned late, we may want to consider purchasing another item. Maybe there's a high request and people still need it, or changing the policy to be longer, or changing our policy of how often we're sending out the overdue notices. In any case, now we're going to create an analytics report of all items returned 30 days or after 30 days or more after the due date. In other words, they're 30 days overdue when they were returned. So there's a pre-made field here called return due days, and that's in the fulfillment subject area under loan. Let's go take that. So we'll say create analysis. Let's do it here actually. Create analysis, fulfillment subject area. This is the loan folder. And we have a field here called return due days. This is the number of days after the item was due that it was returned. In fact, let's see if I were to search for return due days Alma fulfillment. And I were to say, so it's in this page. Number of days between the return date and the due date. Okay. And where was I? Sorry. So we've got the return due days. Let's see what else we want to put in there. Oh, that's just what I showed now. Okay. Let's put in the loan date and the due date. Loan date, due date, and return date, just so we can see that it really was overdue. Loan date, return date, and due date. So we've got the loan date. There's a loan date folder. Loan date, due date, and return date. And got everything in there. And now let's filter the return date. Let's say we want those which were returned in the last year, in the last month, whatever, because otherwise we'll be getting everything in the system. So we'll say return date. There's something here called a return date filter right here. And we'll say return date filter is equal to is in last 365 days. Go. So if the return due days is negative, that means it was overdue. By the way, I don't want to display this return date filter, so I'll remove that from the display. And let's go take a look. So these that are negative mean that it's overdue. For example, the due date was November 6th. Let me get this straight. The month here is at the beginning. So this is November 6th. It was due October 30th. It was 7 days late, October 31st, and then 6 days of November. So if we want anything overdue, it has to be negative. If we want anything overdue, returned more than 30 days after the due date, what do? Someone want to suggest? This is 7 days overdue. This is 14 days overdue. This is 28 days overdue. If I want anything 30 days or more overdue, what should I do? Who has a suggestion? Where's the chat? Okay, somebody said it. Yes, filter return days less than negative 30. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go into the criteria, say return days, filter is less than negative 30. Now I'm only going to get items returned in the last 365 days, which are more than 30 days overdue. So all of the return dates are within the last 365 days, and they're all overdue more than 30 days. Then if I want to start getting more information, I can take, for example, the user groups. This is somebody asked about having loans in the user subject area. Now I'm doing the opposite. I have users in the fulfillment subject area. So I can see what the user group is. Which user groups are doing a lot of these overdues? And I could even do how many loans are over 30 days overdue. I'm going to say number of loans. And now I don't need to display anything else. I'll get rid of these other fields. Oh, it's almost time to end. All I want now is to display the number of loans and the user group, because I already know they're all 30 days overdue. These are the user groups that have returned items. Let's get rid of that. And let's get the, okay. Okay, so these are the user groups who have returned items overdue in the last 365 days. Okay, I see here someone asks a long question. It's 10:30 now. Someone says our loans are auto renewed every 7 days. The borrower only needs to return the item when done with it. Let's put it out here so everybody can read, because if I keep reading it like that, people will get a little lost. So somebody asks, I'll just put it on this page. Our loans are renewed every 7 days. Okay, there's an automatic renewal. And so then the patron has to return it only if it's not renewed, and it's not renewed if there's a request. Okay. Would the first loan date, would it be correct to say that the loan date would be fixed at the yes, the loan date is when it was loaned. The other dates are called renewal. There's renewal, and there's loan. So the loan is the one that you would get. There's a whole nother thing about renewals. And when you run that job that renews it every 7 days, you've got renewal dates. So there's a renewal date and there's a loan date. Okay, we are out of time, unfortunately. I mean, this could have been a 2-hour session very easily. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. I see nearly everybody remained with us the whole time. We started with 103, and now there's 96, but we're 1 minute over time anyway. So thanks. I will be posting this video later in the day and sending out to the Alma list that it's there. And as always, it's going to be on the YouTube channel and on the Ex Libris Knowledge Center Education and Webinars page. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see each other in the next sessions. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.